Dr. Caroline Marsh's hands were shaking. That was the first thing anyone noticed. Not the paintings, not the woman in the folding chair. The hands, steady for 30 years, hands that had held Rembrandt's sketches and dismissed 1,000 forgeries without a tremor, were shaking. The examination room at Hartwell and Associates smelled like halogen heat and lemon polish, and something older underneath, something that had no business being in a Tuesday afternoon in Cleveland. 3 canvases leaned against the white wall under the lights, and the lights hummed, and nobody spoke. Someone's phone buzzed. Then another. "Get Ellison," Marsh said. Her voice was quiet. That made it worse. "And somebody call the Wentworth. Ask for Dr. Adeyemi. Tell her I need 5 minutes." The young man nearest the door, Todd, 31, who had walked this woman toward the exit less than 3 hours ago, didn't move for a full second. He was looking at the paintings the way people look at things they cannot yet organize into a category. Underscore, underscore, quote, underscore, 2, underscore, underscore. He left. Heels clicked fast across marble. A door swung open somewhere, and the sound of the lobby rushed in, then cut off. Dorothea Reeves sat in a folding chair they had brought from the break room. Not one of the velvet chairs along the wall. Those were for clients. Hers had a small dent in the left rear leg and a sticker on the underside that said, "Property of Hartwell Staff Kitchen" in faded red letters. She had noticed it when she sat down. She had not said anything. She was wearing her good church coat, camel wool, double-breasted, the second button missing since February. Her cardboard box sat at her feet, water-stained at the corners, held together on one side with a strip of packing tape she had applied herself on a Tuesday morning that felt like it belonged to a different life. She watched Dr. Marsh crouch in front of the largest canvas, watched her pull the magnifying loupe from her jacket pocket, watched the room fill quietly with people who had somewhere else to be until they didn't. Marsh looked up from the painting, looked at Dot. "The 1951 Pittsburgh series," she said. Not a question, a confirmation. "The brushwork in the lower left corner," Dot said. "The way he pulls the palette knife through the wet impasto. He only did it that way in that period. It's in the letters he wrote to Clement Greenberg. Most people skip those letters." Marsh stared at her. "Most people," she repeated. "They're in the archive at the Cleveland Museum of Art," Dot said. "Third floor reading room. You have to request them at the desk." The room was very still. Outside, through the walls, the city moved. A bus hissed past. Someone laughed in the lobby. A phone rang twice and stopped. In here, nothing moved at all. Marsh set down the loupe. She pressed both palms flat against her thighs, and Dot saw her take one slow breath. "Mrs. Reeves," her voice had changed. "Do you understand what you've brought us today?" Dot looked at the 3 paintings. She thought about May. "The fun is just beginning. Tell us what city you're from in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe." The tension is rising. Who's watching from where? Like and subscribe to the channel. More to come. Tell us in the comments who's from which country, and give us a like and subscribe. The plot thickens. Let's check our geography. Tell us where you are now. Give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. We're just warming up. Tell us where you're watching from. Give the video a like and hit the subscribe button. The climax is near. Share where you're from, like, and be sure to subscribe. Events are unfolding rapidly. Write your city in the chat, give it a like, and subscribe so you don't get lost. The juiciest part is yet to come. Let's get started. Get to know each other. Where are you from? Like and subscribe right now. The suspense is building. Tell us where you're watching this episode from and reward us with a like and a subscribe. The excitement is running high. Tell us what city you're from now. Give us a big like and subscribe to the channel. She thought about a soft cardboard box and a storage unit on Lorraine Avenue and the specific weight of almost throwing something away. "I understand," she said, what May kept. But none of this was supposed to happen. 3 hours earlier, they had asked her to leave. Before we get back to that room, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And if these stories move you, make sure you're subscribed. We tell them every week. The alarm didn't wake Dorothea Reeves. She was already awake. 5:40 a.m. The east side of Cleveland was still dark, and the radiator in the corner was doing its usual thing, knocking twice, going quiet, knocking again, like it was asking permission. Dot lay on her back for exactly 1 minute, the way she had every morning for 38 years, then swung her feet to the floor. The apartment smelled like cedar from the closet she never fully shut, and last night's canned tomato soup, and the particular staleness of a space that held one person's breath for too long. She didn't mind. She had made her peace with small spaces a long time ago. She made coffee in the kitchen the size of a generous thought. Instant. 2 teaspoons, no sugar, in a mug with a faded Cavaliers logo that had lost its red somewhere around 2011. 2 pieces of toast, peanut butter to the edges. The morning news on the television in the corner, volume low enough not to wake the baby next door through the wall. 14 months retired. 38 years at Garfield Elementary. Mopping hallways, replacing light bulbs, learning the names of every child who stayed late. Her pension came to $1,240 a month. Rent was $710. She budgeted carefully. New shoes waited. She ate standing at the kitchen counter, watching the weather segment without really watching it. May had been gone 7 months now. Ovarian cancer. 6 weeks from diagnosis to the end, which was the kind of speed that didn't leave room for anything except showing up. Dot had shown up. She always had. The storage unit on Lorraine Avenue was the last thing. May's whole life in a 10 by 10 room, and Dot was the only one left to sort it. She went on Saturdays, mostly. She took the 22 bus and wore her oldest shoes because the unit had a concrete floor that collected water at the edges. That particular Saturday, 3 weeks ago, she had found the box near the back wall. Cardboard gone soft with moisture, held shut with a bungee cord May had probably taken from a grocery cart. Inside, 3 oil paintings, wrapped in old bedsheets. No frames, no labels. Dot had almost set them by the dumpster. Her hand was on the first one. Then she stopped. She couldn't have said exactly why. Something in the way the light from the unit's single bulb caught the surface, a texture she recognized without knowing the word for it yet. She took them home on the bus, balanced across her lap, drawing exactly one look from a teenager in the back row. The following Tuesday, she went to the library, the Cuyahoga County Public Library on Euclid Avenue, a place she had been coming to for 30 years, longer than some of its staff had been alive. Mr. Osei was at the reference desk, 34 years old, reading glasses he didn't need yet pushed up on his forehead. Quote, 13, quote, he said. Quote, 14, quote. Dot said. She set her spiral notebook on the counter. Quote, 15. He looked at the notebook, looked at her. Quote, 16, he said. Quote, 17. She nodded, sat in her usual chair by the window, where the morning light came in long and flat across the reading tables, and waited. The bus downtown took 45 minutes on a good day. This was not a good day. Dot sat with the cardboard box across her lap, one hand resting on top of it, the way she might rest a hand on a sleeping child's back. The 22 connected to the 9 at East 55th, and she stood in the February cold for 11 minutes, waiting for the transfer, the box tucked under her arm, her good church coat buttoned to the top, all buttons except the second, which had been missing since February, and which she kept meaning to replace. She had looked up Hartwell and Associates the night before on the library computer. Their website said walk-in appraisal consultations were welcome. She had read that sentence 3 times to be sure. The lobby hit her first through smell. Lemon furniture polish and something floral and synthetic, the kind of scent that came from a diffuser, not a flower. Then the light, white and even and sourceless, the kind that made everything look slightly more valuable than it was. White, marble floors, a chandelier that was either very old or very expensive at pretending to be. Art on every wall, framed and lit and labeled, each piece behind its own small spotlight like a minor saint. The woman at the reception desk had perfect posture and an earpiece and a smile that arrived before she looked up. "Welcome to Hartwell. Do you have an appointment?" "I don't," Dot said. "Your website lists walk-in hours." The smile held its position. "Walk-in consultations are Thursdays, 10 to 2. Today is Tuesday." A brief pause. Perhaps there was some confusion. "No confusion," Dot said. "I misread the schedule. My mistake." She said it evenly. She had spent 38 years being precise about whose mistake was whose. The receptionist, her nameplate read Brianna, glanced at the cardboard box. Just once. Her expression didn't change, but something behind it did. Brianna said. Dot said. A beat. Then Brianna reached for her phone and pressed a button. Todd appeared 2 minutes later through a side door, straightening his jacket. 31 years old, sandy-haired, with the particular confidence of someone who had learned a system and trusted it completely. He looked at Dot. He looked at the box. He asked 3 questions. Where did the items come from? What period did she believe they were from? Had she had them looked at previously? And his pen moved less and less as she answered each one. Quote 29, he said. He had already shifted his weight toward the door. Quote 30, quote 31. Dot's voice was quiet. She had pulled the largest canvas halfway from the box, just the top edge, and she was looking at it, not at Todd. The way he layers the titanium white over the underpainting. It's the same technique as the 1951 Pittsburgh series. She tilted her head slightly. I always thought that was underappreciated work. Todd stopped. From across the lobby, the sound of heels on marble. Then, silence. Dr. Caroline Marsh stood very still, her coat half-buttoned, her client meeting forgotten. She was staring at a 58-year-old woman in a camel wool coat holding a water-damaged cardboard box. She crossed the lobby in 12 steps. "May I see that?" she said. The examination room was smaller than the lobby suggested it would be. Utilitarian. Halogen lights on adjustable arms, a long white table, the smell of the space, chemical and neutral, like a room that had been scrubbed of personality on purpose. Marsh laid all 3 canvases out without speaking, moving with the focused economy of someone who had learned to keep her reactions private until she was certain. Todd stood near the door. He wasn't sure if he'd been invited to stay. He stayed anyway. Marsh pulled a loop from her jacket pocket and bent over the first canvas. A full minute passed. The halogen hummed. Dot sat in the folding chair they had brought from the break room, her hands folded in her lap, watching Marsh the way she used to watch the librarian catalog a new delivery. Patient, attentive, already knowing something. "Tell me about this one," Marsh said, without looking up. "The ground layer is lead white," Dot said. "You can see it coming through in the lower left, where the top layer has cracked along the drying lines. He switched to titanium after 53, so this one is earlier." Marsh straightened, looked at her. "How do you know he switched?" "He wrote about it. A letter to a dealer in Pittsburgh, November 1953. It's in a collection at the Cleveland Museum of Art. Reading room, 3rd floor. You request it at the desk." Dot paused. I've read it twice. The loop went back into Marsh's pocket. She moved to the second canvas. Dot said. Marsh said nothing, but her jaw had changed. Something had settled in it. Some private conclusion she wasn't ready to speak aloud. She stepped out without explanation. The door clicked behind her. Todd and Dot were alone in the humming room with the 3 canvases and the particular silence of a space where something important was being decided somewhere else. Brianna appeared after 4 minutes with a paper cup of water, not from the glass carafe on the credenza. Dot noticed the carafe, noticed the stack of proper glasses beside it. Brianna set the paper cup on the edge of the table nearest Dot's chair and left without making eye contact. Dot drank the water, set the cup down. She thought about May, about the way May used to say that people showed you exactly who they were in the details they thought you wouldn't notice. The paper cup instead of the glass. The folding chair instead of the velvet one. She thought May would have found it instructive. She thought May would have laughed about it later, in the car on the way home, the way they used to laugh, privately, warmly, between the two of them. She thought, May would have said, I told you, Dot. I told you everything has value. The door opened. Marsh came back in. Behind her was a man Dot hadn't seen before. Silver-haired, expensive watch, the careful posture of someone accustomed to being the most important person in any given room. He looked at the paintings. Then he looked at Dot. Quote, 43. Quote, he said. Quote, 44. Quote, a pause. Quote, 45. Quote, Dot reached down into the cardboard box. Dot reached into the cardboard box and removed a plastic grocery bag, the kind with the red thank you printed on the side, slightly stretched at the handles from the weight it had carried. Inside were 3 folded pieces of paper. She unfolded them carefully, the creases soft with age, and set them on the white table beside the canvases. Ellison leaned forward. His expensive watch caught the halogen light. Dot said. She smoothed the edge of the top letter with one finger. The room was quiet. Ellison picked up the first letter by its edge, the way you'd handle something you weren't sure about yet. He read. His face gave nothing away, but his breathing changed. Slower, more deliberate. The breathing of someone buying time to think. Quote, 49, he said. Quote, 50. Dot said. Quote, 51. Quote, 52. Dot said. Quote, 53. Marsh was already photographing the letters with her phone, moving around the table in a quiet orbit. Todd hadn't moved from the doorway. He was watching Dot now in a different way than he had in the lobby. The way you watch someone after you've realized you misread the first page. Then a voice from the corner. Young. Male. One of the junior staff who had drifted in without introduction. Underscore, underscore. Quote underscore, 54, underscore, underscore. He said it quietly, to Ellison, not to Dot. As if Dot were a painting herself. Something to be assessed, not addressed. Underscore, underscore. Quote underscore, 55, underscore, underscore, underscore. The halogen hummed. Dot set down her empty paper cup. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't shift in her chair. She simply looked at the young man in the corner and spoke in the same tone she had used to tell 38 years' worth of children that the hallway was not a place to run. I have been coming to this city's libraries for 30 years, she said. I raised my sister's children for 2 years when she was sick the first time, because there was no one else. I worked 38 years cleaning up after other people's children because it was honest work and it needed doing. She paused. I did not ride 2 buses in February, carrying a box of my dead sister's belongings to fabricate anything. The corner was very still. Ellison looked at the young man. The young man looked at the floor. Marsh said without turning from the letters. "Let her finish." Nobody spoke after that. The refrigerator in the break room down the hall cycled on, a low mechanical hum that traveled through the walls. Somewhere in the lobby, a phone rang twice and stopped. Ellison set the letter down. He looked at Marsh. Something passed between them. A question and an answer. Wordless, professional. He straightened his watch, looked at Dot. "Mrs. Reeves," he said carefully, "do you have legal representation?" Dot looked at him steadily. "Not yet," she said. Ellison left the room. Marsh followed. The door clicked shut, and Dot was alone again with the canvases and the halogen hum, and Todd, who had not quite managed to leave. He stood near the table now, closer than before, looking at the largest painting, the one with the layered titanium white, the one Dot had almost set by the dumpster on a Saturday morning when the cold was coming up through her shoes from the concrete floor. "Can I ask you something?" Todd said. "You can ask," Dot said. He gestured at the canvas. "The New Mexico thing. The color temperature in the shadows. How did you even know to look for that?" Dot considered the question. There was a catalog from a 1974 retrospective at the Carnegie Museum. The essay in the back, a woman named Helen Franks wrote it. She spent 2 paragraphs on the shadow work, and nobody seemed to pay attention to those 2 paragraphs. She paused. "I paid attention." Todd was quiet for a moment. "We get a lot of walk-ins," he said. It wasn't an apology. It was something trying to be one. Quote 69. Dot said simply. The door opened. Marsh came back in first, phone in hand, and behind her was a woman Dot hadn't seen before. Mid-40s, dark blazer, the alert stillness of someone who had just been pulled off something else and didn't mind. Quote 70, Marsh said. Quote 71. Voss nodded at Dot, pulled a chair from the wall, a proper chair, not the folding one, and sat across the table. She set a legal pad on the table. Dot said. She said it the way she said most things, without drama, with complete certainty. Voss made a note. Looked up. Quote 77. Dot looked at her evenly. Quote 78. A pause. Voss's pen stopped moving. The library on Euclid Avenue, Dot said. 30 years. They have a good collection. Better than most people realize. From the hallway, the sound of Ellison's voice, low and rapid, on a phone call. Then another voice. Someone else's phone. A different conversation. The building had woken up around this room without anyone noticing it happen. Marsh set her own phone face down on the table. She looked at Dot with an expression that had shed its professional coating somewhere in the last 20 minutes. I called a colleague at the Wentworth Institute in New York, she said. Dr. Adeyemi. She's been researching this artist's transitional period for 11 years. Marsh paused. She wants to see photographs. Tonight. The halogen hummed. The paper cup sat empty at the edge of the table. Dot looked at the 3 canvases. May's canvases, Calvin's payment, a debt settled in 1963 in a Pittsburgh studio with a repaired roof. Then send them, she said. Dr. Adeyemi called back in 40 minutes. Marsh took it in the hallway, but the examination room door was not fully closed, and Dot could hear the shape of the conversation even without the words. The quick back and forth, the silences that meant someone was looking at something carefully. Then Marsh's voice dropping to a register Dot recognized. The register of someone trying to stay professional while something large was happening to them. Ellison stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, watching the paintings as if they might move. Quote 85, he said, to no one in particular. Quote 86, quote 87, Dot said. He looked at her. Quote 88, quote 89. Dot folded her hands in her lap. Quote 90. Ellison uncrossed his arms. He pulled a chair from the wall, a proper one, with a cushioned seat, and sat down across from Dot for the first time. He rested his elbows on the table. His watch face caught the light and threw a small bright coin onto the ceiling. Quote, 91, quote, he said, quote, 92, quote, 93, quote is, quote, 94, quote. He paused, quote, 95, quote. Dot looked at him for a moment. Quote, 96, she said, quote, 97. She said it without bitterness, the way you state the weather. Quote, 98. Ellison nodded slowly. He seemed to be recalibrating something internal, some old assumption he hadn't known he was carrying until just now. Marsh came back in. Her phone was still in her hand. Her face had changed. Adeyemi wants to fly in, she said. She wants to see them in person. The room went still. From New York? Todd said. She said she can be here Thursday morning. Marsh set her phone on the table. She also said. She stopped, started again. She said if these are what she thinks they are, they're not just valuable. She said they're the missing center of his entire body of work. She's been writing around a gap for 11 years. Marsh looked at Dot. These are the gap. Nobody spoke. The halogen lights hummed their steady, indifferent hum. Somewhere down the hall, a printer started up, spitting out pages for a different afternoon, a different transaction, something ordinary. Dot looked at the 3 canvases. She thought about Calvin, who had fixed a roof in Pittsburgh in the spring of 1963 for a man whose name was now being spoken in this room with a particular kind of reverence. She thought about Calvin loading 3 paintings into the back of his truck, not knowing. About May keeping them through 4 apartments and 30 years and 1 storage unit on Lorraine Avenue, not knowing either, or maybe knowing, in the way May always knew things. Everything has value, May used to say, if you look at it right. Dot pressed her palms flat against her thighs. Thursday is fine, she said. She took the 9 bus home. Same route, same vinyl seats, same driver who never made eye contact. The city moved past the window in the February dark, lit storefronts, a laundromat with a broken sign, a church with its marquee letters rearranged by wind into something that no longer said what it meant to say. Dot held the empty cardboard box on her lap the whole way home. The paintings were staying at Hartwell overnight, in a climate-controlled storage room. Marsh had asked permission carefully, formally, and Dot had said yes. She had signed a receipt. The receipt was in her coat pocket now, folded in quarters, the paper thin and slightly warm from being held. She made instant coffee when she got home, stood at the kitchen counter and drank it without sitting down. The apartment smelled the same as it always did, cedar, the ghost of soup, the particular stillness of a space that holds one person's life. She looked at the green velvet couch, at the folding TV tray, at the curtains she had hemmed herself from discount fabric, the stitches slightly uneven on the left side because she'd been tired when she did that panel. Everything the same, and something entirely different. She called Mr. Osei at 7:15. She had his number from the library's community outreach program. He'd given it to her 2 years ago after she'd helped him compile a reading list for the adult literacy group. He picked up on the second ring. Quote, 107. Quote, 108, she said. Quote, 109. Quote, a pause. The sound of a television in his background, low. Quote, 110, he said. Quote, 111. Another pause, longer. Quote, 112, he said. Quote, 113, quote, 114. Dot said. She wrote it in her spiral notebook, the same one where she'd copied descriptions of brushwork and technique for 30 years. The number sat at the bottom of a page, below a paragraph she'd transcribed in 2019 about the way a particular painter built shadow from the ground up, starting with the darkest tone and working toward light. She looked at the number for a moment. Then she called. Renata Ose answered on the fourth ring, her voice alert in the way of someone who had learned to be available. Dot explained the situation in 7 sentences, precise and chronological. When she finished, there was a short silence. Renata said. Dot said. The sound of a pen. Dot said. Renata said. Dot hung up, set the phone on the folding TV tray, sat down on the green velvet couch for the first time all evening, the receipt still folded in her pocket, the spiral notebook open on her knee. She looked at the empty space on the wall where the paintings had never hung, where they'd been in a box in a storage unit for 30 years, waiting for someone to look. She thought, Thursday then. Dr. Adeyemi was smaller than Dot had expected, 53 years old, natural hair shot through with silver, reading glasses on a beaded chain around her neck. She flew in from LaGuardia on the first morning flight and arrived at Hartwell at 9:47, still carrying her travel bag, and walked directly to the examination room without stopping at the reception desk. She stood in front of the 3 canvases for 4 minutes without speaking. Nobody spoke. Marsh stood to the left, Ellison to the right. Renata Ose, Dot's attorney, sat beside Dot with a legal pad on her knee and a pen she hadn't uncapped yet. Todd was near the door again, in his same position, as if he hadn't moved since Tuesday. Adeyemi crouched, pulled her glasses down from her hair, looked at the lower left corner of the largest canvas for a very long time. Then she stood up and turned around. Her eyes were wet. She didn't seem embarrassed by it. "Where did you find these?" she said. She was looking at Dot. "My sister kept them," Dot said. "Storage unit on Lorraine Avenue. She kept everything." Adeyemi pressed her lips together, nodded once, slowly, the way people nod when they're holding something too large for a quick response. Quote, 124. Quote, she said. Quote, 125. Quote, she turned back to the paintings. Quote, 126. The room was very still. Marsh's phone buzzed. She silenced it without looking at it. Ellison cleared his throat. "In terms of formal valuation, not yet," Adeyemi said quietly. "Give me another minute." He stopped. The expensive watch on his wrist caught the light. He said nothing. Adeyemi walked to the smallest canvas, the one Dot had almost left by the dumpster. She looked at it the way Dot had looked at it that Saturday morning in the storage unit, with the particular attention of someone recognizing something they already knew. "The shadow work," Adeyemi said softly. "He's building from the darkest tone up, just like the New Mexico letters described." She looked at Dot. "You knew that." "I read your 2019 paper," Dot said. "I thought you were right." Something moved across Adeyemi's face. She took off her glasses entirely, held them in one hand. Her voice was careful. Dot looked at the 3 canvases, Calvin's payment, May's inheritance, the things she had almost thrown away on a cold Saturday morning. Dot said. Adeyemi nodded. She put her glasses back on, turned to Marsh with the focused expression of someone returning to work. Quote, 139, quote, she said. Quote, 140, quote. Dot looked at Renata. Renata gave a small nod. Quote, 141, quote, Dot said. Todd, in the doorway, let out a breath he seemed to have been holding since Tuesday. 6 months later, the storage unit on Lorraine Avenue was empty. Dot stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at the concrete floor, the water stain in the far corner, the single bare bulb overhead. She had been coming here for 7 months. This was the last time. She pulled the door down, clicked the padlock shut, dropped the key in her coat pocket, the camel wool coat, now with a new second button, bone-colored, a close enough match. She took the bus to the library. Mr. Osei looked up when she came through the door. He had seen the Plain Dealer article, a quarter page, below the fold, with a photograph of the 3 paintings under examination lights. He had cut it out and taped it to the staff bulletin board without asking anyone's permission. He slid a book across the desk before she reached him. "Came in yesterday," he said. "Adeyemi's new catalog." She thanked the Cuyahoga County Public Library in the acknowledgments. He paused. "And a private collector named Dorothea Reeves." Dot picked up the book, felt the weight of it. The cover was a detail from the largest canvas, the layered titanium white catching light, the shadow built from the darkest tone up. "She spelled my name right," Dot said. "She did," Mr. Osei said. Dot sat in her usual chair by the window. The afternoon light came in long and flat across the reading tables, the same as it always had. She opened the catalog to the acknowledgments page and read her name once, quietly, to herself. Then she turned to the first essay and began to read. The 3 paintings had sold at private auction 4 months earlier. The final figure was not something Dot discussed, but Renata Osei had negotiated carefully, and the number was enough. Enough that the rent on Lorraine Avenue was no longer something Dot calculated twice before sleeping. Enough for the new shoes she'd been waiting on. Enough to establish a small fund at the Cuyahoga County Public Library for adult art education programs, a thing she'd asked about before the auction closed, before she knew the final number, because she wanted it to happen regardless. Todd had sent a handwritten note to Renata's office. 3 sentences. He was sorry for the Tuesday. He was glad she had stayed. He was learning to slow down before he decided what he was looking at. Renata had read it aloud to Dot over the phone. Renata asked. Dot said. In the very back of the storage unit, on the last day, Dot had found a small framed photograph she hadn't seen before. May and Dot, young women, 22 and 25 maybe, standing in front of a large painting at a museum. Both of them laughing at something outside the frame. The photograph now sat on the green velvet couch at home, beside the new library book in the afternoon light. Dot closed the catalog, looked out the window at the Cleveland street, ordinary and unhurried, the city moving at its own pace. She thought about May, about a storage unit and a cardboard box and a Saturday morning when she had almost walked away. About 30 years of reading in this chair, alone, because beauty deserved to be written down. May was right. Everything has value, if you look at it right. If this story moved you, like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. If you ever found something you almost threw away, something that turned out to matter, would you have had the courage to walk through that door? Tell us below.